A top official from Taiwan's ruling party quits after a massive campaign to recall opposition lawmakers fails. A chorus of criticism for China after an Indigenous Taiwanese choir was forced to change their nationality at an international competition. Many in Taiwan's business community want the government to speed up talks with the US as the deadline for a tariff war deal draws near. Plus, space dreams have liftoff as local schools compete for the best rocket design at Taiwan's new launch site. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Reece Ayers. The Secretary-General of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party has stepped down after the resounding failure of the weekend's mass recall campaign. Lin Youchang announced his resignation in a Facebook post Monday morning after the recall attempts against all 24 opposition Kuomintang lawmakers failed. Lin said he takes full responsibility for the party's shortcomings and failure to meet public expectations. The recalls, which had the potential to shift the balance of power in the legislature, began as a civic-led movement, but the DPP later lent its official support. Another recall vote against 7 more KMT lawmakers is scheduled in August. China is increasingly putting pressure on Taiwan at international events, and Taiwanese groups at a choir competition in Tokyo are the latest to be affected. Tiffany Wong has more.
What should have been a celebratory moment for a choir from Taiwan was soured by cross-strait tensions at a competition in Tokyo.
And now the first place choir in the folklore music category, Nibun Chorus.
Nibun Chorus, a Bunun indigenous singing group from Kaohsiung, was one of 3 choirs from Taiwan competing in the folk music category. A total of 8 choirs from Taiwan registered in the international competition under the name Taiwan. However, on the second day of the competition, their national origin was abruptly changed to Chinese Taipei due to complaints from China. Later, the flags of all of the participating countries that lined the stage were also removed. Lawmakers from both of Taiwan's main political parties condemned the pressure from China.
一定是坚定的支持我们的这个做台湾的选手，那我们也要跟中共这边提出强烈的抗议，因为其实在国际赛事上，我们必须要有这种政治的打压。
比赛之前都还在跟主办单位沟通所以最后在不涉及政治的情况之下，让司仪在透过各种介绍的时候，除了介绍 Chinese Taipei 以外，还把台湾也带进去。
This is just the latest incident of China forcing Taiwanese teams to participate as Chinese Taipei in international competitions. And even in an event where the focus should be the music, it's clear that the name still is a sensitive subject for Beijing. Howard Zhang and Tiffany Wong in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's sports authorities say its athletes experienced unprecedented pressure from China while competing in Germany. Taiwan sent nearly 200 student athletes to the 2025 World University Games, participating under the name Chinese Taipei. All of Taiwan's national teams compete under this name due to pressure from Beijing. Several incidents occurred outside of competition, with Chinese officials attempting to interfere with Taiwan's athletes. The head of Taiwan's sports administration praised the athletes for their strong performance despite the pressure. Taiwan won 5 gold, 13 silver and 7 bronze medals at the Games. The United States has reached a framework trade agreement with the European Union, ending a months-long series of negotiations. It comes as other countries try to make their own deals ahead of the deadline this week, as the US warns of fresh tariffs on chips and prepares for more trade talks with China. Chris Gorin reports.
Mr. President,
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and U.S. President Donald Trump with a big announcement in Scotland.
Thank you very much. So we have good news. We've reached a deal. It's a good deal for everybody, I believe. And I think you were saying this is probably the biggest deal ever reached in any capacity, trade or beyond trade.
It is.
A framework trade deal between two of the world's largest economies, simplifying the scheme of U.S. levies.
We have stabilized on a single 15% tariff rate for the vast majority of EU exports. This rate applies across most sectors, including cars, semiconductors, pharmaceuticals. This 15% is a clear ceiling, so no stacking, all inclusive.
Along with the 15% across-the-board tariff, von der Leyen says some products will be tariff-free, including aircraft, semiconductor equipment, natural resources and raw materials, as well as certain generic drugs, chemicals, and agricultural products. Global markets climbed on the deal's announcement as nations around the world raced to reach deals of their own with Washington before an August 1st deadline, when they could be hit with high tariffs. Back in Washington, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says results of a national security probe into foreign chip imports, largely from Taiwan, are due in about 2 weeks, which could see targeted tariffs on semiconductors. But one country on their own timeline is China, which may see tariffs take effect on August 12th. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng are set to meet in Stockholm on Monday, hoping to extend the current tariff truce and potentially pave the way for a meeting between Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping. The Financial Times reports that Washington has even paused its technology export controls on China to avoid hurting trade talks. The focus now, mid-August, when key meetings may determine just how high the next tariff hurdle could be. Chris Ma and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Members of Taiwan's business community are urging the government to work faster on a tariff deal with the US as Taiwan's cabinet works to get a lower tariff rate than was proposed in April. Cadence Carranto reports.
As Taiwan continues trying to hammer out a deal with U.S. President Donald Trump on tariffs, some within its business community want the government to hurry up.
业界在等的就是那个关税到底会不会影响我们未来的整个对外的贸易嘛？关税是很重要，重中之重。人家为什么每一国比如说日本、韩国各国都在强调这一块，那我们始终都得不到答案，一直在说这个气氛良好，那应该要有答案了啊。
They want to know the tariff rate as soon as possible so they can prepare. Otherwise, if companies are caught off guard, especially smaller ones, they say they could risk shutting down. The anxiety among Taiwan's business world comes amid Taiwan's fourth round of tariff talks with the U.S., aimed at lowering the proposed 32% tariffs on Taiwanese goods that Trump announced in April. A deal is likely to come within the next few days. Taiwan's government has previously said it hoped to reach an agreement with the U.S. by August 1st, and Trump has said his government will have most deals finished by then, before sending out tariff letters.
I'm going to keep it minimal. I'm going to keep it, I'm not looking to hurt countries. I could do that too, but I'm not looking to do that. But when that letter goes out, that's a deal. And we'll be sending maybe close to 200 of those letters out. Don't forget, we have a lot of countries. So we're going to be sending out almost 200 of those letters. But once those letters go out, there we have a deal.
Several of Taiwan's neighbors have recently reached trade deals, including Japan, which got a 15% tariff on all goods. Some argue 15% or lower is what Taiwan should be aiming for too, to keep some of its industries that compete with Japan afloat, like its machine tools industry, which exports heavily to the U.S. Meanwhile, Taiwan's semiconductor industry could face targeted tariffs, following a U.S. national security probe into foreign chip imports due to be released in around 2 weeks. Taiwan's cabinet says it will provide updates when it has them, and for some whose livelihoods may be affected by this deal, that news can't come soon enough. Hank Xu and Cadence Carranto for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's consumer confidence rose in July, the first time it's gone up in 5 months. The increase was driven by growing optimism in the local stock market. Out of 6 major indicators, timing for stock investment showed the most significant rise. Analysts say this is tied to Nvidia restarting exports of its H20 chips to China, prompting its Taiwanese supplier TSMC to ramp up production. While confidence was up slightly in July, the index still indicates general pessimism in the national economy. Elon Musk says a new $16.5 billion contract to make chips for his company Tesla has gone to Korean electronics giant Samsung. Musk says that Tesla's AI5 chip will be made by TSMC in Taiwan and Arizona, while its next-generation AI6 chip will be made by Samsung at its new fab in Texas. It's a boost to Samsung's faltering foundry business, which has lost market share to competitors like SK Hynix and TSMC. It also comes as South Korea seeks to reach a trade deal with the US to avoid tariffs that could take effect this week. Samsung shares were up 4% in midday trading on the news. Taiwan is taking its space ambitions to new heights. The National Science and Technology Council has broken ground on the country's first research rocket assembly plant and control center, a major step towards being able to launch a home-built rocket into space by 2034. Irene Lin reports.
A wave of cheers as these rockets take to the sky in Taiwan's far south. These rockets, built by 10 school teams with technical support from the Taiwan Space Agency, now being demonstrated at the Rocket Taiwan Cup competition. But it's more than just a rocket competition. The Pingtung Research Facility hosting the event is also opening its new assembly plant and control center, all in hopes of fostering homegrown talent. With global demand for satellites and launch services soaring, Taiwan is racing to build its own rocket supply chain, from design to liftoff.
那台湾借这个机会能够发展卫星的这个产业之外呢，我们也希望能够发展火箭的产业。我们会规划一个太空科技博物馆跟一个太空科技教育馆，特别是在东部的这个教育，我们一定会把太空科技的这个教育从小扎根的这个教育结合地方政府。
And with the National Science and Technology Council aiming to send a homegrown rocket into space by 2034, it's pouring resources into Pingtung, where they also hope to house the country's first national rocket launch site.
包括这个科研火箭的地方，我们所做的跟国科会来连接，跟太空中心来连接，我们真的非常的幸运，也非常的荣耀，能够成为国家在发展太空事业一个很重要的伙伴哈。
With growing research and public engagement, these young rocket engineers could soon launch Taiwan into a new era of space dreams. Joseph Wu and Irene Lin for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break. Lawmakers are asking why there were so many accidents during Taiwan's recent Hangguang military drills.
Hello and welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Ian Kavat. Today we examine China's engagement with Africa.
Unfortunately, this very aggressive form of cultural revolution-like politics in China seems to be moving forward in this modern era.
This grave injustice is happening.
The issue is, what can the U.S. do to help strengthen Taiwan?
We need that kind of mindset to prepare for the warfare.
What implications does this have on Taiwan and the region as a whole?
Just like Ukraine right now, you need people to understand we're doing this for our own country.
Reaffirmed our support for the Taiwanese ability to make their own decisions about their own future.
It's very hard to duplicate in the short time. Taiwan still can continue being the leading position if we put efforts on R&D.
And you are riding on a wave. This is exactly the time you need to double down.
Or I did not realize I am actually running to be the first Asian woman in the state senate. Our next generation, they can see Asian American is as equal and have the same platform.
Taiwan Talks provides a platform for the voices and perspectives that are shaping our country.
For more stories from Taiwan, around the world, and in front of a World War II era aircraft carrier, please download the TaiwanPlus app. It's bigger than it looks.
Start your weekend with a cup of coffee and a moment to reflect on what happened this week.
Hello and welcome.
We've got you covered, from defense and politics to high-tech and the arts.
Not just to Taiwan, the whole world is watching.
You make the coffee,
we make the news.
Here's what happened on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. At least 6 people are confirmed dead in a mass shooting that took place at a market in Bangkok. Graphic footage shows emergency personnel performing CPR on a victim who later died at the scene. The confirmed fatalities include 5 security guards who worked at the market and the shooter who took his own life. Police say they are investigating the shooter's identity and motive. The UK would fight alongside Australia to help Taiwan in a potential Chinese invasion if necessary, The Telegraph reports. British Defence Secretary John Healey spoke to the press after signing a 50-year nuclear submarine treaty with Australia. Healey says the UK and its AUKUS allies, the US and Australia, are committed to deterring threats in the Indo-Pacific. His comments come as Australia hosts its largest joint military exercise, known as Talisman Sabre. This year marks the first time the UK has sent its largest aircraft carrier strike group to participate. 42 more Abrams battle tanks have arrived in Taiwan, the second batch of 108 purchased from the US. Taiwan received its first batch of 38 vehicles last December. 10 of these underwent live fire drills earlier this month. Taiwan allocated more than $1.3 billion towards upgrading its aging tank fleet between 2019 and 2030. The final batch of 26 tanks is expected to be delivered by mid-2026. The Defence Minister faced tough questions at the legislature Monday morning after a string of accidents marred the country's biggest military drills earlier this month. Alan Liu reports.
Taiwan finished its largest ever Hanguang exercise in mid-July. While some praised this year's drills for being more realistic and including less scripted simulations, lawmakers are concerned about the number of accidents that happened.
到演习结束为止，大概发生军车意外事件的部分，在一般民众的感觉，好像发生的蛮频繁的。
There were 8 accidents across the country during the 10-day drills, including a crash between a civilian vehicle and a military tank. The defense minister says the military must step up training efforts.
所以要做更多的这些驾驶的安全驾驶技能的磨练，还有实战化的一个磨练，这个应该确实都还要再精进。
One legislator suggests that military vehicles be equipped with dash cam to help determine liability if there is an accident. But the defense minister says that could interfere with how vehicles maneuver and hinder soldiers' ability to watch the enemy.
我们应该都有相关的保险的一个机制，那所以都会要经过一些保险事故的调查。那战车上面如果没有行车记录器的时候，那当然也有附近的监视系统啊。
Besides accidents, lawmakers are reviewing 5 key areas of this year's Hanguang drills: countering gray zone threats, improving combat readiness and deployments, strengthening strategic communications, boosting reserve forces, and building a multifaceted defense system. This year's exercise also used more new weapon systems, such as drones, rocket systems, and anti-armor missiles, to slow down enemy forces. These work as a substitute for personnel. The drills also tested how long it would take to restore combat power after reserve forces were mobilized. And it turns out troops returning to their original units can get back up to speed faster, a direction the military hopes to continue in. Fu Hua Hong and Alan Liu for TaiwanPlus.
Weeks-long heavy rain is pounding central and southern Taiwan, leaving entire regions underwater. Work and classes have been suspended as streets, homes and factories in some areas are flooded out. Many of these areas were also battered by Typhoon Danas earlier this month. The latest rains are coming from Tropical Storm Kome, which weakened into a tropical depression over the weekend. Forecasters say the wet weather could last through next week. A clownfish farm on Taiwan's west coast is helping protect the ocean in its own unique way. Our reporter Sandy Chi went to the facility to find out how.
An interesting-looking fellow. This black storm clownfish is not the common and instantly recognizable orange and white kind of clownfish. This designer variety is among the many cultivated by 37-year-old aquaculturist Liam Xue.
在我们在做这个人工小丑的这种配对的过程中，它会产生出各种不同花纹啊，或是不同体色、不同表现的这种小丑鱼。
This black storm clownfish is one of the most popular varieties on Xue's farm, with over 2,000 of them sold each month to customers in 14 different countries, making up to 25% of his farm's total sales.
很漂亮，很漂亮，很不一样啊，就是很特别这样子。小丑鱼的这个种类跟图案五花八门了，那已经越来越多种不同的纹路，那消费者就有很多不同的选择。消费者对于这个饲养这个海水鱼啊、小丑鱼的这个兴趣啊，会变得比较好。
Xue began working with clownfish at the age of 20, when he fell in love with the fish after watching the movie Finding Nemo. Inspired by the Disney animated film, Xue created his very own clownfish kingdom, the biggest clownfish farm in Taiwan.
Over more than a decade, Xue has bred 35 varieties of clownfish, each of them taking up to 3 years to successfully develop. And here at this farm, he exports around 100,000 of these fish each year to over a dozen countries.
Some may struggle with the idea of breeding designer fish in captivity for sale. But Xue says he hopes to use his business for the benefit of clownfish in the wild.
我们为了要能够说去避免大家就是去野外捕捞小丑鱼，然后对珊瑚礁海域造成破坏，其实我们是反向的是鼓励，如果你喜欢养这个小海水鱼，想要养小丑鱼，你可以选择人工小丑鱼。好，那这样子基本上我们又可以满足我们的兴趣，同一时间我们也可以避免我们对我们海洋珊瑚礁生态的这个破坏，哦，算是用我们的方式来保护我们爱的海洋。
Xue does not do business with just anyone, especially not with those who plan to release his fish into the wild. Although his fish could survive there, he's concerned that they might unbalance the ecosystem. Experts have also praised Xue's efforts in protecting wild clownfish.
Because it was so wonderful. First, the organization, the clarity of the organization, how everything is really safe and clean and well designed, and the professionalism behind that, and the diversity of fish they have created by breeding and crossing many lines. Thanks to captive bred clownfish, there is much less clownfish captured in the wild for aquarium trade.
Now, with years of working with clownfish, to Xue, his marine fish are more than just a commodity for sale.
哦，它就好像我们的家人，像我们的朋友一样，所以其实我们也希望它可以过得更好。
Now, with his clownfish kingdom, Xue hopes to further show the world how his expertise and care can help protect the ocean and make a difference in conservation. Devon Tsai and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
A day in the life of Taiwan 100 years ago. That's what's seen in a film reel newly released by the Taiwan Film and Audiovisual Institute. The institute says the images from Taiwan's Japanese colonial period are the earliest known film footage shot on the island, though it has a distinctly Western perspective. Chris Gorin has more.
Villagers from Taiwan's indigenous communities line up for a Japanese imperial viceroy. This footage belongs to what are believed to be the earliest known moving images of Taiwan. The scenes come from a Dutch short film known as Formosa, just released by the Taiwan Film and Audiovisual Institute. The 7.5-minute silent film print is dated to 1922, but scholars say the footage may have been shot as early as 1917.
我的考证是没有错的话，它是旅行电影或旅游电影的其中的一部。它是到全世界各地，到非洲、亚洲各地，目的就是拍当地的奇风异俗。
The film shows various scenes of early 20th century life in Taiwan, such as work on the tea and sugarcane plantations that dominated the early economy of what was then a Japanese colony. Scholars also note the film, which is Dutch in origin but may have been shot by an American, has a distinctively Western perspective on Taiwan.
比较像一种介绍式的影片，那它的视角当然是蛮西方，就是给欧洲可能是中产阶级以上，他们在学校或是其他地方去认识亚洲这个地方。
The Institute says the release of the film and research published alongside it are part of an effort to showcase the history of Taiwan, while also ensuring local perspectives are included.
虽然他是外国人拍的，但他拍的是台湾的当时的情况。那我想从我们现在比较成熟的这个历史社会的这个背景上面，我们可以做更好的诠释。
The Institute hopes other historic images that remain overseas will soon come home as well, so future generations can see a fuller picture of Taiwan's past. Devin Tsai and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, check out the thousands of people in South Korea taking part in the annual Mud Festival. I'm Reece. Take care and see you next time.